Hey, welcome into the Stink Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside Mike Evans. The draft is in the books. It was exciting. It was fun. We live in Denver here, so we got into the quarterback carousel or the quarterback. What do you want to call that? I don't have the right word for it. It was the quarterback.
It was quarterback carousel, quarterback snake pit.
It was
quarterback roll the dice.
I tell you what, it was like everybody. You get a quarterback. You get a quarterback. You get a quarterback. Crazy. 6 picks, 6 QBs in the first 12 picks.
Well, you got some people comparing this to the class of '83, which produced 3 Hall of Famers, but also produced some ordinary quarterbacks as well. And maybe arguably the best of all the quarterbacks came at the end of that draft, with Dan Marino being picked late, and I'm certainly sure that's what Bronco fans are hoping, that in this case the 6th quarterback taken ends up being the best one.
Although that 6th quarterback taken and Dan Marino never actually won a Super Bowl, went, but didn't get to win one, and that becomes more of a team award. But, I mean, just crazy, the run on quarterbacks. And there's a couple different reasons. Like, I think about, one, the odds are that one of these 6 guys will become an NFL star. So now it becomes which one? How do we evaluate them? Which one has the best opportunity to become that quote-unquote NFL star? But that's it. That's the odds when you talk about these 6 quarterbacks. Why do they get pushed up? Well, because there's a premium on the quarterback position is one reason. But I think the biggest thing that happened in the National Football League was in 2011, the collective bargaining agreement where they decided to create the rookie wage scale. So by drafting a quarterback, by reaching for a quarterback, by taking a quarterback, it doesn't hamstring your your organization for the next 10 years if you miss. Because if you miss, you know what you do? You Arizona Cardinal it. You go right back in and grab yourself another one. And you miss again, and you go right back in and grab yourself another one. And so there's less punitive damage done to you as an organization with this new rookie wage scale.
Is it though?
Remember?
Well, hold on. I'm going to push back on you on that one, because if that was the case, then shouldn't Arizona have gone out and drafted another quarterback from the high spot that they were in this year? You can't believe, nobody out there can believe that Kyler Murray is for sure the answer.
Right.
So why didn't they go swing again? What about the Giants?
Yeah, the Giants.
The Giants can't think Daniel Jones is the guy. Why didn't they swing again?
All right, the Giants are the biggest. The biggest one to me is why didn't they swing again? I think that we had talked about the Eeyore contract, the nature of the Eeyore contract. Like, well, if I just load enough, if I load enough weapons around the guy, all of a sudden the guy's, it's like magic. He's going to become, it's like a expecto patronus, and all of a sudden he's going to become a wizard. No, he's not. I don't care how many weapons you put around the guy. He's not the guy. He doesn't pass the confetti test. You cannot, if you're a Giants fan, you can't close your eyes. Right? You can't sit there and close your eyes and go, can I imagine confetti falling on my guy as he hoists up the Lombardi trophy after a Super Bowl victory? And you can't.
No.
There's no way, if you're a Giants fan, you can imagine that.
I can't with Kyler Murray either.
I can't either. And yet they didn't jump right back in.
Right.
Which, to me, if that's what you're going to do, then do it. If that's the theory behind it, then do it. Just jump right back in and do it all over again until it actually works.
But see, that I think reveals then the true reason why, despite the very, very mixed results when it comes to drafting quarterbacks high, why 6 teams in the first 12 threw once again caution to the wind and went out and drafted a quarterback. Why? Because first of all, they believe will be the one. Okay, if only one of these 6 are going to be great, we'll be the one to get it right.
Right.
Okay. But secondly, I had a friend of mine text me after the Broncos made the pick of Bo Nix, and he said, "You know what, Evans? You're right. For the first time in a while, I have hope." And hope is a powerful thing for football fans out there.
Yeah.
And now, if you are in New England, Washington, Chicago, all these places that drafted a quarterback, you know what you have now? You got hope. You got potential. You got the promise of what could be. And that's a powerful thing. And don't think that the teams that draft these quarterbacks, that continue to draft these quarterbacks high, don't tap into that. The idea that, hey, this buys me, the GM, some job security. This buys me, the owner, some free will, some good grace, with the idea that we have a young quarterback now and people are willing to buy in. And I think it explains why they didn't draft a quarterback in Arizona. They didn't draft a quarterback with the Giants because they're still kind of trying to create the idea that there's still hope. Especially in Arizona.
In Arizona, I think there's still more hope in Arizona than there is that Daniel Jones can be your guy. Coming off an ACL, they used the playoffs from a couple of years ago, but remember what they did. The playoffs, they morphed back into Daniel Jones, carry the ball, Daniel Jones, run the RPO game, Daniel Jones, run the read zone game, Daniel Jones, you're going to run 10 quarterback, runs a game. It was really a departure from what they had tried to do, and that's where Daniel Jones plays his best. Then last year, up until the ACL, they tried to morph back into more of a drop-back passing game, and, that's at this point, Daniel Jones hasn't proven that he can be that guy from the pocket. So, again, I'm surprised with the run-on quarterbacks that you had that they didn't go in that direction. They didn't get a quarterback. They got a receiver, and listen, man, Neighbors is incredible. Like run after catch. Neighbors, I heard one comparison to Neighbors that resonated with me a little bit like Deebo Samuel. Strong hands, attacks the ball in the air, the underneath stuff, can take one, that's a 8-yard throw or a 6-yard slant and break 2 tackles and turn it into a house call. Like, he has that ability, so maybe that will help Daniel Jones all of a sudden, miraculously become really, really good. I doubt it, but we'll see.
So for the teams that root for the teams that took quarterbacks, what would be your message? Do we start the clock? Is it 3 years? You got 3 years with these guys. They got 3 years to show that they're legit.
Yeah,
is that the time frame?
I think 3 years. You give them some benefit of the doubt early because there's a process, right? The college game and the professional game are completely different. And I'll just give you, there's a couple of things. One, there's probably about 50% more offense that you're going to run in the professional game than you will in the college game. So right off the bat, your menu is much larger. You go from a small menu at a mom and pop shop at an Italian shop that has spaghetti bolognese and it has, chicken parm and it has, whatever other Italian dishes there are. It's got rigatoni and it's got a few to Cheesecake Factory, right?
Cheesesteak,
oh my God,
it's like a book,
right? There's so many options, right?
Right.
So many options. So that's one thing you're going to. Then the hash marks make the field different. You don't have that wide side of the field. You have less space in professional football. So think about this: if you're on the far hash in college football, and so you have that wide side of the field and you're in a 3-by-1 formation, you have essentially like almost 4 yards of more real estate. So if you break that up into 3 receivers, right, each guy has another, 4 or 5, it's 12 feet. So each guy has another 4 feet around him. Mm-hmm. Like, you've got that much more space, so things become a lot more wide open in the college game. There's a big difference that the hash marks make. And then the other thing is, from a personnel group standpoint, the base formation in college football is 10 personnel, 1 back and 4 wide receivers. Why? Because everybody grows up in these 7-on-7 leagues now, and the best talent that you produce in the college game is wide receivers and the quarterback. So that's how everybody plays. In the NFL, a lot of 3 wides. It's morphed into a lot of 3 wides, but multiple tight end groups, multiple back. There's a difference. So there's 3 major differences why it's hard to transition from the college game to the professional game.
If you had to guess, let's say the odds are that of these 6 quarterbacks, let's say 1 turns out to be elite, 2 or 3 end up being good starters, and 2 or 3 bust.
Right.
Okay? That's kind of how the odds lay out.
Yeah.
Call your shot right now. Who's the one that ends up being elite out of this 6?
Elite. I don't think it's either the first 3 taken.
Really?
Yeah. I think, first off, you've got to understand where guys are going and who's coaching them. So if I was going to give the odds of the 2 guys in the best situation, let's just call it the guys in the best situation. Caleb Williams is going to an organization that hasn't developed a quarterback, has never had a quarterback throw for 40 touchdowns or 4,000 yards. In the history of Chicago,
30
touchdowns.
30 touchdowns.
30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. Never had a quarterback do that, right? Now you have a defensive coach that a lot of people thought should get fired in Eberflus. A guy that's going to, it always takes me back to my early ESPN days when Steve Young was a part of ESPN back in the day. And he would always complain about having defensive coaches for young quarterbacks because defensive coaches are going to err on the side of doing what's best for their defense. So it's hard to develop a young quarterback with a defensive-minded head coach because you're always going to play to that defensive strength. You're always going to run the ball. You're always going to try to eliminate, possess the ball, eliminate that defense having to be put in tough positions. Think about the first 3 players taken. Eberflus is the coach of the Bears. Dan Quinn, coach of the Washington Commanders. And then you've got at number 3, Gerard Mayo, coach of the New England Patriots. Number 4 is Raheem Morris for the Atlanta Falcons. So those guys are already, from a development standpoint, are going to play for defensive coaches. And I don't care who you are, when you're a defensive coach, ultimately you're going to protect your we had it here with Fangio for years. Fangio, they would ask Fangio questions after practice. It was hilarious. They would ask Fangio after practice. They would ask him about offensive. I wasn't. He would just flat out say, "I wasn't paying attention to the offense. I was watching my defense." Yeah.
I'll go look at the offense on film later.
Yeah, I'll go look at the offense on film later. Like, you're the head coach, dude. Yeah. You're like, that's the way he operated. And so I think there's some of that is a real hindrance to the development. So the 2 guys to me that have the biggest chance of development are J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. You got big-time receivers there. You've got a good offensive line with 2 tackles that I think are good players, top-notch tackles in the league. Darisaw, one playing left tackle, and the other cat, I lose his name right off the top of my head. But so you've got a good offensive line, and you've got Kevin O'Connell, who played quarterback in the league, played in New England. A really smart offensive kind of guy, comes off the Shanahan/McVay tree, and I think he does a tremendous job in Minnesota. So a great opportunity to feed the guy in and have some success with some really good players around. And then the other guy is Bo Nix. And Bo Nix is interesting to me because what I think some draft nicks criticize, I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, one of the criticisms of Bo Nix that I keep getting is, well, he doesn't have elite level arm talent. He doesn't have a big arm. When did that win anybody anything? When did the guy with the biggest arm win games? I'm asking you. Like, I always look at these guys that the highlights come draft time. Drake May. Oh, he threw one 60 yards on a post, and that doesn't take accuracy. You just throw it to an area, right? Boom. And how many times has that ever happened in the NFL game? When was the last time a ball was launched 65 yards for a touchdown in the air? Like, all the deep balls come off of 5-step drops without a hitch. So that ball comes down between the numbers and the sideline, somewhere in there. They always try to capture, in every practice field in the NFL, there's a red line painted down the sideline. That red line is about 5 yards, 5.5 yards, whatever it is, off the out of bounds, right? Off the sideline. So what you're trying to do anytime you're running a deep route, you're trying to capture the red line. I mean, you're trying to push the DB into the field. So you give the quarterback that 5 yards of space between the edge, the sideline, and between that and the numbers. And so that ball comes down between that red line, between the numbers and the sideline, at about 42 to 47 yards. That's where the deep balls are caught in the league. Nobody throws it 70 yards. Unless the only time you throw it 70 yards is when you're at the end of a game, you're throwing a Hail Mary or 60 yards or whatever it is. So it's like, the guy's got a huge arm. I don't care. It doesn't come into play. Now, you got to drive the ball across the field and all that kind of stuff. But everybody's got arm enough to do that. If your timing is right, if you could throw it on time, you're going to be fine. And so the one thing that Bo Nix possesses is, hey, man, accuracy and timing. And I would argue you can't have accuracy without great timing. And the other thing is, if you get the ball out of your hand quickly, and he was the quickest quarterback out of his hand, like his time spent on task was like a 2 point whatever second. They've got analytics for all this bullshit. So, I mean, but that says to me, watching him, he's not. Now, I think one thing that's a misnomer, I think a lot of people that watch football think that quarterbacks look at the receivers. Those would be sight throws. The bad quarterbacks will look at receivers. The good quarterbacks are reading coverage and the leverage. So you're like, hey man, let's say I'm putting the curl flat defender in conflict. If the curl flat defender gets too much depth and doesn't maintain leverage on the flat route, throw the flat route. If he takes away the flat route right now, come back to the curl. Right? That's the guy you're putting in, the safety. Hey, man, we're going to high load the safety. Or like a Mills concept. If the safety jumps down on the basic, or it jumps down on the dig, throw the post behind it. Right? You're reading that guy. You're putting that guy into conflict. So great quarterbacks don't read the receiver. They're not looking at the receivers. They're looking at the coverage.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's how that works. And what it tells me, when you get the ball out of your hand quickly, it tells me I instantly see what the coverage is, and I'm letting it eat. And I'm giving it to the guy. And here's the other thing I would tell you about that. In today's game, and we've talked about it on this podcast right here, the Fangio effect. And the Fangio effect is that shell defense played out of that quarters coverage or that cover 6 or, cover 2, like that too high shell, and basically saying, we're not letting you get over the top of us. So you're going to have to throw everything underneath. And I would tell you, people look at the criticism and go, well, he threw more balls, at the line of scrimmage or just beyond the line of scrimmage than anybody else, and that's why his completion percentage is that high. Okay, I'll give you that. That definitely increases your completion percentage, but that's the league we play in right now. So you damn well better be accurate in that short to intermediate range, and the ball better come out of your hand quickly. And so I would say the two quarterbacks to me in this draft class, based upon where they were drafted, based upon offensive coaches coaching their football team, and based upon the way the league is operating right now, those two guys, J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix, have the greatest chance of success out of this draft class of those 6 quarterbacks.
Last thought on the quarterbacks. Should they all play right away? Or
yes,
can all of them? Throw them out there.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have any. You have no other option in Chicago. No, I'll take that back. Penix should not play right away. He should sit behind Kirk Cousins.
Right.
That's the one that was perplexing, right? That because the other guys they don't have anywhere else to go. I mean, Chicago, Caleb Williams is going to play.
Right.
Same with Jaden Daniels. Same with Drake May. And to me, same with
McCarthy and Nix.
McCarthy and Nix. Penix is the only one that's going to sit if This was the thing I didn't get. Like, I was listening to a couple of national analysts going, "This is a brilliant move because if Kirk Cousins isn't healthy enough right now, coming off the Achilles, then Penix can play for." So, if our injured quarterback that we signed a 4-year, $180 million contract with isn't healthy enough to play right away, then what we'll do is get the most injured quarterback in the history of college football to come in and replace him. The only guy I've ever heard of to have 2 ACLs end a season and 2 shoulder reconstructions to end a season.
Atlanta, people.
I mean, hello? What?
Yeah.
How does this make sense? By the way.
Home of 28-3, by the way, in case you forgot.
Yeah. By the way, that Atlanta team in that division's not good. With Carolina, and you got, New Orleans and Atlanta and Tampa, who won the division last year, but it won the division at what, 9-8? Like, I thought the Atlanta Falcons they were the best team in that division. And I thought the one thing they lacked on defense, was an outstanding edge pass rusher, Mike. And at that point in the draft, it was all 100% offense. You could have had your choice of the edge guys that whatever one tickled your fancy, you could have had your choice, and you could have helped that team. I already thought they were the best team in that division. They got a strong offensive line. They've drafted offensive players over the last couple of years, with the tight end and Pitts, with Drake London, the wide receiver position, Bijan Robinson last year at the running back position. One edge rusher. They'll get Grady Jarrett back, who's an outstanding defensive tackle. He's just a great pressure guy inside. Put a great edge rusher beside him, and who knows what you could have. But no, we took a quarterback that probably won't play. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
All right, so last thought on the quarterbacks. Are you saying you expect them all to play, but should they all play? Because you can't help but notice, Mahomes sitting a year,
right.
Jordan Love sitting a year. I mean, it doesn't seem to hurt these guys. If anything, it helps them.
I think the first 3 guys taken are going to play. I think Penix will sit, and I think that's great for Penix, right? To sit behind Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins is super smart, unbelievably detailed, really knows his stuff, right? It'll help from a preparation standpoint. I think J.J. McCarthy could sit. He didn't play a lot, and you went out and got Sam Darnold, who just went through a year of quarterback rehab in that same offense. Now, they use different personnel groupings. Like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan work together in Washington. They run the exact same offense. But Sean McVay does everything out of 11 personnel. And they'll call their personnel with either Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp. 11
personnel being
3 wide receivers and 1 tight end, 1 back.
Yep.
Okay, but they'll call their 11 personnel, they call 11 and a half personnel. So it means one of those receivers is actually really, whether it's Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua, they're really playing tight end in effect. They're running those 12 personnel plays, those run plays out of 11. And so it makes it a tough matchup. Whereas Kyle Shanahan will run it out of 2 backs. He'll run it out of 2 tight ends. He'll run all those same. But they designate everything the same. The tight end, if it's in 3 wides, the F receiver is the third wide receiver. If they run it out of 2 tight ends, the F receiver is the backup tight end, and they can motion him and put him wherever they want to put him. So it's the same language that Sam Darnold just went through, but a different personnel grouping under Kevin O'Connell, who grew up and coached under Sean McVay. So, I think that you'll see Sam Darnold get the first shot at the starting job there and it may be 5 or 6 weeks as McCarthy kind of learns that system. But I think Bo Nix starts from day one. I think that's the guy
he's the same age as Zach Wilson, so
right.
He's played 61 games in college. What are you waiting for?
And I think Sean Payton looks at him and says his skill set reminds me that of Drew Brees that I had, a ton of success with over the years, and he's going to be my new Drew Brees.
The first defensive player, Leatu Latu, was taken 15th. 14 offensive players came off the board before Chris Ballard and the Colts take him at 15.
Yeah. And and Chris Ballard, I don't know if you saw the video, but Chris Ballard is like laughing. He's like, are you effing kidding me? We get the best defensive pass rusher on the board. You know, almost like it's almost like admonishing the rest of the NFL for falling victim to the quarterback / wide receiver craze, right? Oh, my God. Although I will say this, Chris Ballard, last year, didn't you fall victim to the quarterback craze when you went after Anthony Richardson, who, by the way, did not finish one game his rookie year? He started several, but he did not finish one because he got hurt in every game that he played in. That's a note to Jaden Daniels, who said he wants to end up as the best rushing quarterback in the history of the National Football League.
Yeah, be careful.
Maybe
be careful
change
with
your
that
goal
one.
set there because that'll get you murdered.
Some questions coming in from the great viewers out there. Here's one for you from John Barrett II.
I say.
Mark, what's the difference between a good right tackle and a good left tackle?
You know, there used to be, the way the league used to be structured, used to be you had to have this really athletic kind of left tackle. That was the premium position. And then you could have kind of your bruiser at right tackle because 80% of the time you're in a right-handed formation, and tight ends back then didn't really split out. They were part of the formation. They were on the line of scrimmage. That's no longer the case. And even though the majority of teams are based out of right-handed formations, it may not be 80% anymore, maybe 60 or 70% or whatever it is. But everything is open. There's so many open formations now that whether you're a right tackle, whether you're a left tackle, you're going to face an open side. Both sides are going to be open. And, you know, they made a big deal out of the blind side and all that kind of stuff, right? And that was big. But anymore, right tackles are as important as left tackles. And the makeup of those guys has changed. Like you look at Lane Johnson. There's nobody any more athletic than Lane Johnson playing right tackle. And then you get a lot of those guys who flip sides nowadays, or you get a lot of premier pass rushers over there on that right side. So Von Miller he created a Hall of Fame career here in Denver. He's now in Buffalo, and he won a Super Bowl, with the Rams a couple of years ago. But he is primarily over the right tackle, so at left defensive edge, if you will. So, there's no real difference athletically or any because everything is open now. There's so much more spread formation. So you have to have a guy that is gifted athletically at right tackle position. Unlike when I came in the league, the right tackle didn't have to be as athletic, but now they have to be.
All right, one more for you. Mark, which or who will be the first player in the NFL to wear a guardian cap during the game? For those who are wondering, you see it a lot now at the high school, college level, but also at the pro level. They wear these concussion resistant caps on top of the helmet that they practice in. Well, now the NFL is saying you can wear them during games.
Yeah.
So who will be the first player, or what position player will be the first player to wear a guardian cap during the game?
I think it's got to be. It's got to be a quarterback.
You're not joking.
No,
like a Tua, for example.
Right.
Someone with concussion history.
Yeah, because when you get hit and the back of your head hits the ground is where the quarterbacks usually fall victim to concussions. So if you can, because all that thing does is it softens or cushions the blow and extends the time that that impact happens. So it absorbs. It takes longer it absorbs some of the impact, so that it lengthens the time. So there's less of a concussive kind of bounce your brain on your skull. So yeah, I could see like a Tua. They're trying to create helmets based upon the position you play, or they are creating helmets based upon the position you play, where you get the majority of your impact. Like for offensive linemen, it'd be all on your forehead, right? So to have some type of system that that extends the time. I remember being in physics class with Dr. Brown, my physics teacher, and he asked me to throw an egg up on the sheet. And the demonstration was if you throw an egg into a sheet, the time when it hits the sheet and the impact is lessened over time because the sheet absorbs so much of the impact that the egg doesn't break. So he asked me to stand up in front of the class and throw the egg, and I threw it, and I missed the sheet and hit the back wall, and the egg splattered all over. And he's like, that's even better because it shows you.
That's what happens with our hard surface.
Right, hard surface. Then he gave me another egg, and I hit the sheet.
Yeah.
And so the demonstration was perfect. Couldn't have worked out better.
What a teacher's pet.
Hey, you're welcome.
Teacher's pet, Mark Schlereth.
You're welcome.
So, all right, would you wear one of those?
No.
Why not?
Because they look stupid. I'd rather have scrambled egg brain than to look stupid.
So you're saying offensive linemen will be the last ones to wear a guardian cap?
No, there'll be some guys that'll wear them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some guys.
Will they be mocked?
No, not anymore. I don't think you'll be mocked. Again, it's comfort.
Right.
You know, I mean, I had to have some teeth replaced here over the last couple of years. And, my dentist looked at my teeth and go, your teeth in great shape, except they're all fractured. You got microscopic fractures in just like, this is about all my teeth. And I was like, maybe I should have worn a mouthpiece over the course of my career.
It would have protected your chiclets a little bit.
Yeah, but I did. They were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I don't like it. I quit wearing a mouthpiece when I was in college. When I went to, from high school, it was mandatory. I wore it. As soon as it wasn't mandatory anymore, I spit it out. And I was like, wow, I can breathe so much better with this. So I never wore them. And most guys didn't.
Yeah.
Most guys didn't. And, and I don't know what the overall value from a concussion standpoint is. And, some people will say that it will help lessen the severity of concussions. I do know this. It will help protect your teeth. And my teeth, from that standpoint, are kind of a mess.
Well, if they're putting these things in place for players to take advantage of, and they could be a little safer or feel safer, be safer, then why not? You know, if it doesn't change or impact the way the game's played, go for it.
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares?
Okay.
Paint it like the helmet, and we move. And you're getting used to seeing it anyhow. So what is it? It doesn't matter to you as a viewer, right?
Right.
I don't
exactly.
care. Yeah.
Exactly.
And there'll be enough guys that'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna try to keep myself safe.
Sure.
So, and I don't have any issue with that.
And there's still some of the baddest people on the planet.
Absolutely. I wouldn't wear it, but that's.
Well, you're vain.
Right. I want to look my sharpest as I'm pissing my pants. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinkin' Truth podcast, we appreciate you guys for following, for subscribing, to doing all those things. We appreciate it, and we will be back with you later in the week. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinkin' Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.